Imagine we ask an engineer to build a humanoid with 2 arms, or say with 1 arm, so that it does not take so long. And or actually, if you ask my team what the one thing is that I should still learn, it's waiting. I'm really not patient. And of course, the engineer needs a bit more of information, so we say, well, of course, the robot should be able to somehow sense where up and down is, and probably should be able to lift its arm, or maybe like this way better. And say a third task would be probably, okay, everybody's talking about human-machine interaction, so let's say it should be able to detect touch and maybe then react on that. Say 2 days later, the engineer comes back and says, well, okay, here's the system. Well, I say, well, first of all, what took you so long? And the answer then is probably, well, you know, you want the robot to have an arm. Okay, that's easily done, but then, of course, we need a sensor here in the arm for the angle. And then we need the sensors in the mobile phone which detect if it's upside down or the other way around, acceleration sensors. What else? And then, of course, our touch sensors. This gave me the creeps. I invented here a skin or something, or maybe some buttons. And of course, this took some time, so 2 days is pretty fast. And I said, okay, that's a kind of a sophisticated system, and yes, we all the time try to build more sophisticated systems. So we put something on top of it, and it gets more complex from day to day. So I asked him, okay, but my idea was like something more simple, robust, not so many cables, so many sensors. Can you do better? Can you do better? And say, well, I don't have a clue. I say, well, watch here. I say, well, you're giving me the finger, right? That's unpolite. I say, no, watch here. On top of my finger sits an amoeba. If it's a German engineer, you say eine Amöbe, right? So that's an organism which consists only of 1 cell. No neural network, nothing, no different organelles, so it's just 1 cell. And this cell can sense up and down, it can move and so on. So maybe we can copy something from there. Isn't there a way to do it easier? And says, I have no clue. How could we do this? And I say, well, okay, let me draw a simple diagram. We will not go into detail here. Just ignore the technological stuff. I mean, it's true. This is what is in the box. But the story here is, right, you can just do it. It will work. So we have a power supply. Of course, you need a battery or something. And on the other side, we have the motor. Maybe some of you have been playing with Lego in your childhood. So this is how you can build it. And there's just in between the power supply and the motor, there's a small box, like the amoeba, and no sensors and so on. Well, the engineer, of course, says, well, you must be bullshitting me. I mean, how could this work? So you say, okay, I give another try. So here's the answer. Here's the Lego motor, and there's a bit of a plastic rod on it. And on the other side, you have the battery, and this is the proof. There's just a single cable. And I mean, this is not slow motion. This is how it's getting up. So you see, the first task is solved. And it's not in this video, but you can eventually turn it around. So it will reliably detect up and down, and it will stop there in the upright position. Okay, good. I don't know how you did it, but okay. But what for the touch? I mean, how would a piece of plastic detect touch? So here's the answer, or at least the proof that this can work very reliably. You see, if you touch the rod, of course, you cannot touch something without at least having a slight force upon the thing. And this, of course, can go through the motor, back through the cable to the electronic circuit and be processed there. And the nice thing, of course, is, and that's actually the bottom line here of the story, this system is so ridiculously easy that it's utmost robust. I mean, if you cut off part of this plastic rod, or it burns down or something, the rest is still able to detect the touch. I mean, come on. If you put on pressure sensors or something, you need a huge amount of cabling, and if something breaks here, the information is lost and the ability is gone. So that's actually how in the lab we try to reinvent and build, thinking about robots, building robots, getting down with complexity. Maybe also something which is helpful for financial systems, politics, and so on, but I will focus on this very robot here. Okay, so far for the Lego. Now you say, okay, that's nice, it's a nice gimmick. But I mean, how about a full-size robot? This may be 50 motors and so on. So the proof is actually you can scale it up to a huge system, to a larger system. So Simon, would you please be so nice? So that's a single arm of the robot. And as you see, the arm is very much like the Lego motor, able to get into an upright position. I mean, you just have to believe me, but you can do this without programming. There's no microcontroller in this Lego recipe. And you see, if I touch it, it goes against me. And if I let go, it goes up again. Thank you so much. So that's possible. And the nice thing is, you don't need a central intelligence. Who wants a central intelligence anyway? I mean, they are collecting data, and God knows what they do with that. So it's nice for the system to have something which is already working somehow. It's also a matter of a question of how you work together in the team. In many labs, you have a huge team and one very expensive machine, and they compete and say, can I have the machine for a while? And here, in our lab, you see often one guy with a head and a torso and one arm, and the other one with a torso and 2 legs and no arms and no head, to do some walking experimentation, right? And in the end of the day, they get together and try to put it all together. Now you said, well, this is actually one joint. I mean, it's an elbow. So what? And there's not really a huge force on this. And at some point, you need to drive the system how it can behave. But actually, as it turns out, it's not necessary. And sometimes you find this accidentally, say, oh, watch what's in there. Actually, to be honest, when I built this Lego system, I was not aware of the fact that if you touch it, it gets down. I just wanted the first solution. But when I touched it, I said, well, actually, the other problem is solved also. Now, let's go for a more sophisticated thing, and we will see the leg of the robot. And here it's 3 joints. So Benjamin, if you will. Thank you so much. And so it's about the ankle, the knee, and the hip joint. And before you start it, it will go upside, and the movements of the different joints will orchestrate itself. So there's no central processor orchestrating, and there's also no calculated trajectory. Normally, robots get a command, this joint should be this angle, and so on, and over time, it behaves like this. This is not the case. It's just doing this like with the Lego system. Not so many talking. Please let go. And just watch maybe the knee joint. It's a bit a very tiny table that I got here. And there's no start and stop. I mean, he was just connecting the battery, actually. And as you see, it's constantly waving forward and backward. Like, actually, if you watch yourself from time to time, you're never standing 100% still, and you're also never standing completely upright. Actually, you're constantly sensing, is gravitation still there? Of course it is, right? But if we would put this into water where it's flowing, so there's a squid, some tintenfish, which actually is floating in the water, and if a fish comes along and it touches the tentacle, it's actually doing exactly this. So food intake and many other behaviors, thank you so much, that's your applause. It's your applause, Benjamin. Yeah. So this thing is amazing, isn't it? And it's the same principle as with the Lego motor. So you can get somewhere with that. And we will, in a while, see the full robot system where the 2 legs arranged to have the robot standing, and the arms can then do other things, of course. Now, can we blame the poor engineer? Of course not. And why did he not come up with the solution in the first place? And I know because I was the engineer. I said, why did it took you so long, and so on. No offense here. It's the educational system. And this is also part of my talk, actually. an engineer is educated this way. If you want to sense X, Y, Z, you need an X, Y, and Z sensor. And nowadays, everything is put into a computer or in a microcontroller, is put together and so on. And then the path is already laid out. And of course, to break rules, you have to go away from the mainstream and try to rethink it. Now, this principle of modularity can also be ported over into the head, where we have cognitive systems like seeing movement or speech and so on. And probably we can, first of all, look through the eye of the robot who never wanted to do this. So maybe we have a look. Maybe you can point it to the audience. Do we see something? Ah, no. OK, this is later. Now we start with audio, one thing after the other. So here you see my spectrum. No, please, let us see it. We stay here at this image. So if I'm quiet, which is of course hard for me, you see all black. Sh, s, a, I, I, amoeba, amoeba. Maybe you can borrow an idea from the amoeba. Okay, so this is how it works, and from there we get in a simple system. We can cut things out and go into a graph-like representation about nearness. So we have grow, we have show, we have, I don't know, there's also shy in the dictionary. So if I say, for example, Myon, listen, shy, we can have this actuated, and then there's like an associative network from where we can go on, maybe say a new word like Myon, listen, amoeba. And then there's part of the spectrogram which can then be introduced. And another thing is, of course, vision. So now we can look through. So maybe you just point to the audience for a while. So here you see left, and the other way around would be right, and so on. And yeah, maybe we stay here and just put those part solutions together on the desk. And I can then maybe think loud about the educational system. So the idea here is to change it. And actually, we are preparing a bachelor's program, which will start October next year, where we try to cross those classical engineering thinking, which is, don't get me wrong, perfect for most of the things. I mean, who in a factory wants to have a robot which does what it likes to do? For that, it's of course the natural way is okay. But to get beyond those and to get a robust system in the way that we saw, you need to really get down with complexity, throw things out. And this is extremely difficult. All the time, still after 10 years, you have to ask yourself, can I leave still things out? Is this cable necessary? Is this sensor necessary? And in the end, often you are amazed what's possible. But you have to cross the border here. And we try to start in a bachelor program so that they start from the beginning. Then the sooner you are on this traditional engineer track, the harder it is in the end to not do the solution yourself, but to try to enable the robot to come up with a solution. Okay, so last part of the show, we will put the robot, now it's, as you may have seen, it's connected, there's two arms here, one head, and of course it's a very fragile child, so this is nothing for warfare, it will not harm anybody, right? Go for it. And just to give you an idea, a master student easily takes a year to go into a standing up motion. We will see this, Benjamin. Just do it. We'll help the robot to stand up. And there's fancy stuff going on in the joints. Who is dominating whom? In the beginning, the arm is stiff, but then when the robot found its stable position, then it's released again. And you guessed it, while Benjamin is going to the front with the robot, that all those things rely on this simple principle. This raising up the arm or having the robot standing is one of the principles. Yeah, it's a guided walking. People said it's more like a very old patient, right? Maybe because I have been involved in the development of the robot, this could be. But of course, there's not one way of walking. You can do this in very different ways. Okay, so we come to a stand, and maybe we have the robot wave the hands and say goodbye. And in the end, actually, if you're interested or you know people who like to think the other way around, you're welcome to tell them and try to go different ways starting next year in winter. And once it's stable, Benjamin, how?
I think it takes a minute.
Okay. Well, if not, we just take it out. And we actually are in the break. You will find us there in the stand. You can take a selfie with the robot, and we will have the robot waving there for you. So it's not the full goodbye, but for now we say thanks and come on, visit us. Oh, well. Okay, see you later in the break. That's it. Soll ich das nehmen? Soll ich ausmachen?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So. Okay. Show isn't over.
Yeah?
Wow.
Come on, you can do it.
Yeah. You say goodbye?
Bye.
Wow. Great.